little after 3:30. We have Jim Boudreau, the town administrator. We have Kathy Gardner, the town clerk, and Nancy Holt, the town finance manager. We have representatives of the police, CPC, and we're ready to go. Just briefly on the safety issues around COVID, we have met. We've spaced out the space in the gymnasium, and we also have available the small gymnasium, which is already spaced out because students are using that. So we'll be able to maintain the social distancing. Everybody will have to wear masks in accordance with the state guidelines. We can accommodate, based on that distancing, on individuals distanced, somewhere around 325 people. It actually could be more because people from the same household will be able to sit together, so that will would increase the capacity. But we have plenty of capacity. Peter Toppin has agreed to serve as deputy moderator. He will work in the small gymnasium, and we will have audio communication back and forth so that people in both rooms will be able to fully participate in the meeting. With the COVID situation, we've tried to be as efficient as we can to minimize the amount of time that everybody is together. And we think we can do that pretty efficiently. We will have sanitizers for the microphones, and there'll be sanitizer and distancing with the check-in, which will occur outside in the foyer to the gymnasium, again, to allow more space. We will have the warrant, and the first item we will attempt to do is the consent agenda. We combined a number of articles in the consent agenda. The idea being that we take a 2/3 vote to pass these articles. And at the beginning, I will read each of the items that are going to be in the consent agenda, which I can go through right now, which is Article 1, unpaid bills. 2, Article 2, budget reconciliations. Number 4, transfer to the reserve funds. 5, retirement of debt. 6, rescission of borrowing authorizations. A local option acceptance of a special ed reserve fund. And number 10 is, Article 10 is a local option to accept no-cost dog licenses for persons age 70 or older. Number 12 is to authorize cell tower leases. 14 is to accept Studley Farm Road as a public way. And 15 would be to amend the general law bylaws to have all terms be gender neutral. I don't know if anyone has any indication that there's a concern with any of those articles being included in the consent agenda. Does anyone have any indication of any issues with that? I guess not, which is good, but we will ask that at the meeting. If anyone wants an article removed so it can be discussed, we will take that out. Otherwise, we should be able to deal with the consent agenda, and that is the bulk of what will happen at the meeting. Then the remaining articles, let's just go through those and see if we see any issues, will be the kindergarten funding, an appropriation to fund kindergarten. Article 7, which is the capital project. I know there's an issue. I spoke with one of the resident who was interested in increasing the authorization for borrowing for the fire station in Hummerock. Unfortunately, he'd like to add an amendment to increase the appropriation by $1 million, or by $500,000 to $1 million. I've informed him that we've consulted with counsel, and I've reviewed the matter, and such a amendment would be beyond the scope of the article. Therefore, I would not allow that motion to go forward. That's the only issue I've heard on capital. We have 3 items for the Community Preservation Committee, which Dan, I assume you're here for. I don't hear of any special issues around those. We will ask for the recommendation of the Community Preservation Commission. Is anything that you want to fill us in on there, Dan?
No, the two items are really a follow-up to a last town meeting purchase of the Mordecai Lincoln, and I don't think there'll be any issues with those or the fire truck issue.
Good. Okay. Next will be Article 11. Put that in front of me. Oh, that's the to authorize the sale or lease of the Council on Aging and the mine at fire station buildings. That will require a 2/3 vote. And again, it doesn't appear that there's any controversy around that. Article 12 is the cell tower leases. Any issues that anyone's heard surrounding those?
Is that one on the consent agenda? I believe it is.
I don't think it is. It is not.
It is, Mr. Moderator.
I got numbers mixed up. I got the numbers mixed up. 12 is the cell tower leases, and that is on the consent agenda. So that brings us to 13, which is the sign bylaw.
Correct, in Article 13.
Right. That we're going to move to take no action or postpone for consideration after the planning board's had a chance to have some rehearings on that, given that it's the amount of time that's passed since. Is that right, Jim?
Correct.
Yeah. And I think that's it. So it should be a pretty straightforward meeting. I would think we should be in and out rather quickly, which of course is what we want to do with the COVID, is to minimize the contact time and yet accomplish what we need to keep the town business moving forward. Any other issues or concerns that anyone has?
Yeah. Hi, Jim. I'm Bill Burkhead, the new superintendent, and I'm new to the town. So I did come to the summer meeting as an observer, but just curious to know the process for, I'm sure there'll be questions on Article 3, to which I would likely speak to. There might be part of it that Jim Boudreau may speak to. So how does that typically work on when I would come up? Would someone tell me that the superintendent will come up and speak to that, or how does that work?
Well, in general, would have one of the selectmen would make a motion. And then we would have the advisory committee give their recommendation, which usually includes a brief summary of why and the whys and wherefores of it. And then if you'd like, you could ask to speak and make a quick presentation on explaining it. Or the second choice is to sit back, see what discussion arises. If there are questions, concerns, and you'd certainly, I'd keep an eye out for you, and you'd certainly have a chance to address any of those. So your choice really, whether you need to make an introductory explanation or at the beginning of it, or you want to wait to see. Let me know, think about that. However you want to do it, just let me know, and we'll bring you right up after the advisory committee if you'd like.
No, I think that's fine. I think it's spelled out. I'll see if there's any questions. I didn't know the process. And are all the votes 2/3 votes? No,
that is it's just an appropriation, right?
No, that's a 2/3 because it's stabilization.
Okay, yeah. So that'll be 2/3.
Thank you.
Yes. What about Article 16, Mr. Moderator? You didn't mention the South Shore Community Action Council.
I can. Is that in the notes you gave me?
It's one of the last articles. It is the last article, rather.
I'm sorry, Kathy.
No, you just didn't mention it when you were doing the articles.
I missed that. All right. I had the number 15 in my head. Yeah, so we'll that is going to be not part of the consent agenda, and that will be good. I'm glad you pointed that out. See, I'm anxious to get the meeting over with before we even get to the meeting. Any other questions or concerns?
Mr. Moderator, you do have a hand raised. I'm not sure if you're taking public comment, but there is an individual who does want to speak.
All right. I see a hand raised. Go right ahead. This is Mr. Noyes from Humrock.
Hi, Mr. Toomey. We spoke the other night, and I also spoke to Deputy Chief Elliott. My question is, if we can't amend Article 7 to fully fund the Humrock Fire Station, which you eloquently explained that we can't for some reason. I'm not sure I fully grasp that, but if we don't amend Article 7, what will happen? What can we explain to our neighbors that may or may not be there on Monday night? What happens if we don't amend it? What happens with that bid that was opened October 30th, and where do we go from here?
Well, two options. One, we're looking to see if we can make up the shortfall that we currently have within existing appropriations. If that's the case, we can issue and award the contract. If not, then we will have to reject all the bids. The $500,000 that we appropriate Monday night will go into the kitty, and then we will go back in the spring and re-advertise, rebid it in time to have a firm, hard number for the Springtown meeting, and then put the additional funds in at that time.
The $500,000 bond authorization will be part of the approval that can be voted at this point. So it can't be increased, but we can deal with the $500,000 number that is on the warrant.
That makes sense, Peter?
I guess I'm just not clear on Scituate Town Meeting as it pertains to amendments that might, I mean, I looked at previous minutes and people have made motions to amend and they've been allowed. So I'm just trying to understand Robert's Rules of Order and how it applies to this particular town meeting.
Okay, well, I'd be happy to go over that with you again, but the basic issue is the warrant provides for $500,000, a specific number. We cannot go above that number because the warrant does not give notice that a greater amount might be considered by the meeting. The warrant is the four corners of the limits of the what can be put before the meeting. So that's why we can't go beyond that. And the basic idea is if someone was looking at that, they'd see the $500,000, they wouldn't expect that a greater amount, an additional $500,000 was being sought. So it's very clear that that's an issue that's beyond the scope of the article, and I cannot allow your motion. Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, I guess we'll see everybody Monday night. And anyone has any questions in the meantime, shoot me an email, give me a call. Thank you all very much.